So this video, I'm not sure what I'm going to title it yet. It's going to be something to the effect of humans do not need to be in every movie. And that's not exactly the argument I'm making specifically, but it is a part of it. And what I mean by that is that there are movies where their draw is that you're going to see a monster or something of that caliber, and that's what the movie is about, and that's what it's named after, and that's what you're expecting to see. And then in the movie it ends up following people, and you don't really see what the thing was named after, what its draw was. A good example of this is Alien vs. Predator. Both movies, but I'll be talking about the first one specifically because I only saw the second one a few times because it's just awful and boring as fuck. So, in Alien vs. Predator, obviously you come to see the movie to see, well, who's going to win, an alien or a predator. You want to see a fight between an alien and a predator. And the amount of the movie that is aliens versus predators is about 10 minutes, maybe less, of like an hour and a half movie. And that's just bullshit. The only like fight that happens is like halfway through the movie and it's 2 minutes long, and that's just not enough. Where instead we follow these fucking archaeologists in this fucking pyramid. No one gives a fuck about that. It wasn't a particularly bad story. The concepts weren't particularly bad. I don't really know that the characters were good or bad. I didn't really pay attention to that because, again, that's not why anybody wants to see the movie. But it's not the draw. It's not the point. It's called Alien versus Predator. You go to see it to fucking see them fight. And that's just not what they give you. Instead, it's just follow these people. Oh, there you go. If they wanted to have you follow people, the least they could have done was set it in the future, like the Alien movies are, in all the video games, and fucking make it, you follow the Marines, because they have weapons and can actually fight back against the aliens in a convincing fashion. But they didn't do that for some fucking reason. All the video games, I think, take place, all the Alien vs. Predator movies take place in the future with Marines. But the movies, for whatever reason, are modern day bullshit. The second one's a fucking stupid ass high school movie. I could bitch about the Alien vs. Predator franchise for a fucking hour. But it's not the draw. The point is you want to see aliens fighting predators. But for some reason in Hollywood, they don't think that is enough. They don't think like a silent film where you follow a predator for an hour hunting aliens is enough. And it is. You don't need dialogue and you don't need people. Some people do, yes, but there are people out there who will watch a fucking hour and a half long movie that's just silent. Not silent, but with no human dialogue. It's just predators hunting an alien or aliens through a forest. Some people see it. It wouldn't be a total failure. To get off of Alien vs. Predator, another example would be Godzilla. I don't personally like Legendary's Godzilla movies that much. Yes, they're better than 1998's Godzilla, but they're still not really what I want. Gun of Monsters was fine, but it just wasn't what I want, and that's there's a lot of specific reasons why. But another big issue is you're following people too much. Even when Godzilla's on screen, you're always looking at him from the perspective of a person, as opposed to the classic Japanese films where you're up high and you see Godzilla and Godzilla's fighting a thing and you just watch it fight. And yes, they're dated. And yes, it's old and it's kind of goofy, but who cares? It's a fucking battle at least. You can at least tell what the fuck is happening. It's better than goddamn being at ground level with a person and just seeing their feet stomp around and rubble everywhere and smoke and you can't see what the fuck is happening. That's just garbage. Fuck you. That's fucking garbage. So, it's another example where you just don't need people. And it can work. They have made good Godzilla. Japan has made good Godzilla movies with human characters. And I would even, criticize that the Godzilla movies also follow people too much. They aren't particularly interesting characters. They don't bring much to the plot. But at least in the Japanese movies, you see plenty of Godzilla doing shit. You follow Godzilla quite a bit more than Legendary. Example of a movie where the human characters are needed to be followed and were actually done really well was the original Mechagodzilla 3 movie. I think it's called Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla. I don't remember. It's Kiryu, the one where they take the skeleton of the original Godzilla was killed by the oxygen destroyer, and they build like a robot around it. And it has its own conscience and kind of goes crazy a lot. It's like a trilogy of movies ending in Tokyo SOS. But in the first one, Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, if you ever see a poster, it has Mechagodzilla up in the air doing like a big punch to Godzilla. In that movie, you follow a woman whose brother was killed by Godzilla, and she's like really emo, wanting to kill Godzilla. She's ready to sacrifice her life just to get revenge. It's a very dark character, and I actually really enjoyed her as a character. She was very interesting to follow. And that's the kind of characters that you need if we're going to follow a character. And you do need to follow people if we're going to have a robot fight Godzilla, because there's obviously people piloting the robot, and that works. Shin Godzilla, if it's just a monster destroying the city, that's fine. But if the draw is Godzilla's gonna fight another monster, you need to see a lot of that. That's the fucking draw. In Godzilla King of the Monsters, yeah, it had a bit of fighting, but it's still, to me, it wasn't enough. Still wanted to see more. And there's just other technical stuff. I grew up on the classic Godzilla stuff, so I'm very hard on the characterization of the monsters, and I just don't think they were characterized the way I like them to be, but that's a personal gripe on the movie. That's not really relevant to this conversation. Trying to think if there's other examples. I know there are, but I can't readily think of any. I guess Freddy vs. Jason would be another example, though. Them being two slasher movie villains, you do need people in the middle getting killed. So I wouldn't really criticize that movie too much for that. Are there other examples? I don't think so. Essentially, if the draw of the movie is ever going to be something that isn't people, then they don't need to be so prominent. They don't need to be at the forefront of your fucking movie. If the draw of your movie is two big monsters are going to fight, show us a lot of that. We need a good amount of that. If your draw is going to be these two fucking space aliens collide, give us quite a bit of that. If the whole movie isn't it, and you have to have people, at least make them interesting and have them be a part of the conflict instead of just, oh shit, they're caught up in it, look at their drama, because that's just bullshit. I've come up with personally a few ideas that don't follow people. I've come up with one where it's just aliens on their own planet and they get invaded by other aliens, and there's no people until like the last portion of the story. And they don't even play a significant role. And I've had other ideas like that. And people have done movies without people. You know, you got to look at the fucking Lion King, no fucking people, it's fucking animals. They're named anthropomorphic. There are anthropomorphic animals as well, but You don't need to. We've got all kinds of Disney movies that follow fucking animals, and the live action movies that where animals talk and shit. And they don't even need to talk, really. That proves the point. But for some reason, Hollywood's fucked up thing, they think, well, if there aren't people, then people can't relate, and they won't want to follow the story. And that's just such a dated way of thinking. People will respect and appreciate art if it's presented well. Again, if you had a movie of Alien vs. Predator and it's just some predators on an island, or not an island, planet, hunting aliens in the jungle or something, people would watch that. Not everybody. There are going to be some people who are turned off by the lack of dialogue. But just, you could build so much tension and music following them slowly through a jungle or something. Or even if you wanted to do the pyramid thing, you could build a lot of suspense and tension just taking it slow, you know, building up, like, Predator making plans, setting traps up, building suspense, and then the aliens do working in the hive and stuff. You could do all kinds of stuff like that. But for some reason, Hollywood has this dated way of thinking where they think you have to have people, and you don't. I just don't. I understand it, but you know, marketing teams would obviously tell you, well, if you don't have people, then no one's going to care about the conflict. But that's just such a bullshit argument. You obviously have to have people wrapped up in some of these conflicts in order to even to set off some conflicts. You have two big monsters are fighting a city, there's going to be people. But don't distract from the draw, which is the fight, to show those people. You don't need to. We don't need to cut away from two big monsters fighting to go to the ground level and be like, oh shit, oh fuck. And, you know, those buildings crumbling and shit, because I don't care. Nobody cares. That's not why we're here. Don't distract from the fucking draw of your fucking movie. If you're watching a goddamn UFC fight, you don't fucking cut away in the middle of it to show people's reactions in the crowds. Or a boxing match. You might do that in a professional wrestling match, but that's only because they're going to stop anyways. If there's a big collision and they're both on the ground, then you can show people's reactions in the crowds. Because you got to show something. There's no reason not to show that. But the fight has come to a standstill. And you're not really going to see that in a monster fight. It's not going to come to a standstill. It often doesn't. If it did, then that'd be fine, you know. Both monsters on the ground, you show some reactions to different people, but not when they're in the middle of a fight. That's just ridiculous. I don't understand it. So that's my criticism of that. Hopefully the entertainment industry will realize that you don't need to have boring-ass, uninspired characters that we follow through these movies. And we can just start having more unique ideas presented to us in films. And also TV shows. But I don't think that TV shows are as big an issue with this as movies are. Obviously, some things, like I said, are out there that do this successfully. I'm sure there's probably anime out there that doesn't have human characters in it at all. But it's a very small thing that people do, and I just wish I'd see it more. Okay, so that's it for this one.